Okay, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for our fourth and final candidate forum for our state party chair candidates. I'm Matthew Wilson. It is my distinct privilege to serve as your interim state party chair for exactly 48 more hours and no longer. One of these fine folks will be elected on Saturday to serve as our state party chair to fill out the term of Nikema Williams, which goes through January of 2027, so about a year and a half. Each of these folks brings a wealth of experience and vision to the role, and we're excited that you're here with us tonight to hear a little bit more about what each one of their plans are for us. So before we get too far into this, I do want to say a special thank you to the Bullitt County Democrats and our 12th Congressional District Chair, Kathy Frederickson, the Senior Caucus, which is led by Chair Gloria Jenkins, our Disability Council, led by Chair Madeline Ryan Smith, and the Young Democrats of Georgia. Of course, their president is Devontae Jennings, and in particular, the Bullitt County Young Democrats, whose president, Banks Edson, is here with us tonight. Would y'all please help me thank them? This event takes a lot of co-hosts to pull together, so we appreciate all of them for being with us. I am going to put someone on the spot and ask our Public Service Commission candidate from District 2, Dr. Alicia Johnson from Savannah, to please come forward and lead us in the pledge tonight.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and I appreciate Alicia being flexible with me. I'm glad that she was able to join us here tonight. As y'all may know, we have two critical statewide elections this year in 2025. We know we got a whole bunch in 2026, but we have two very special statewide elections this year in 2025 for the Public Service Commission. Now, this entity is a unique entity, but it's the only one. We haven't had an election for the Public Service Commission in 5 years. 5 years. And we get a bite at two of those seats this year. One of those is District 2, and Dr. Johnson was the only Democrat to qualify for that race, so she will be our Democratic nominee for the District 2 seat. So if you have not already met her, please, before you leave tonight, please go over and introduce yourself to her. She's wearing bright pink, so you can't miss her. And I want you to get to know her because she is going to give us a fighting chance at the Public Service Commission. I'm so excited that she put herself forward for this campaign. And thank you very much for being here with us tonight. Okay, before we get started tonight, I just have a few more announcements that I want to make sure you guys know. Of course, this is our final candidate forum. We've had 4 now total, and it is being live streamed through YouTube right now. All of our candidate forums were live streamed, and the videos are archived on YouTube. So if you want to go back and watch them, just go to our Georgia Democrats YouTube page, and they're all there for you to watch it at your leisure. Go crazy this weekend. I want to also make sure that each of you has on your calendar May 20th. On May 20th, we're going to have a very special event in Atlanta that we invite all of you to join us for. It's a grassroots unity fundraiser After we get past this chair's race, we are inviting all Georgia Democrats to join us in Atlanta for an evening fundraiser for the party, and a chance for all of us to come together as a family and celebrate the work we have ahead this year. This is I mentioned it's a grassroots event. Tickets are only $50. It'll be at a brewery in Atlanta. And if you go to our website, georgiademocrat.org/DPG election, you'll have all the details and information to register for that event. And we hope that you'll join us there. Okay, let's go ahead and get on with tonight's show. I know we're starting a little late this evening. Thank you, online audience, for your patience. There were quite a few wrecks on I-16 that delayed a lot of folks' travel tonight, but we're all here now. So the format of tonight is going to go just like all the others did. We're going to give each candidate a chance to give a 2-minute opening statement. I'll ask some questions that were submitted by Georgia Democrats. We'll also have a chance for audience members to ask questions. And then, of course, each candidate will get a 2-minute closing statement. So without further ado, let's start the opening statements. And tonight, we will be led first with Nabila.
Hello. Okay. Good evening. I am State Senator Nabila Islam Parks. I'm the daughter of working class immigrants who came to this country seeking the American dream. I'm also a twice elected state senator. I have fought hard races and won. But prior to being an elected official, I was a Democratic campaign operative, a fundraiser, and an organizer. I was Hillary Clinton's national fundraiser for the South when she ran for president, and I was also a national fundraiser for the DNC under Chairman Tom Perez when Donald Trump won the first time to help raise money to rebuild our national party. But I'm also an organizer. In 2020, I partnered up with Gwinnett County Democrats and helped them raise hundreds of thousands of dollars. And during the pandemic, we sent out 100,000 mailers to low-propensity Black and brown voters. We also did effective Facebook ads and ran a voter protection program. I'm running for chair of the Democratic Party of Georgia because now more than ever, we have to be bold, aggressive, and loud, and we need to take the fight to the Republicans. And here's my plan. This is what I'm proposing. I will use my fundraising expertise to raise the tens of millions of dollars that we need to fund our federal and non-federal operations. So we need to re-elect John Ossoff, but we also got to flip the governor's mansion and our down ballot seats. Also, I'm proposing implementing a year-round organizing program like the likes of Wisconsin. We have the same talent and resources here, and I want to make sure that we have an aggressive field program where we're reaching out to voters in rural Georgia and in metro Atlanta areas, all across the state. And also, I want to make sure that under my leadership, we will contest every single Republican in the state legislature. We will invest in our competitive seats, and it should be a priority, and will be a priority of mine, to make sure that we flip the state legislature and we invest in seats all across Georgia, making sure they have the financial resources and also the training to be good candidates and competitive candidates. I look forward to sharing my plans with the rest during the rest of the forum. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Nabila. Okay, our next candidate is Hardy Davis.
I'm Hardy Davis from Augusta, Georgia, lifelong Democrat, and I'm excited to be here in Bullock County. I spent a great deal of time down here in Statesboro, and I'm running to be your next state party chair. I've got 4 promises that I'm making to you and to all of us as Democrats, and what's important for us is that we win from the bottom of the ticket to the top of the ticket. Georgia is being seen as a firewall for democracy, and while that's true, what's critical for us is that we build, number 1, year-round infrastructure. You're going to hear the other candidates talk about that as well, but it's critical for us. Unfortunately, too often what we've done is got everybody energized for presidential and gubernatorial campaigns. We've got to have year-round operations that allow us to build from the bottom up. Nothing tall is ever built from the top down. It's always built from the bottom up. The second thing we're going to do is identify, recruit, train, and then run Democratic candidates for every single seat in local communities, for school boards, for sheriff's races, county commissions, city councils, mayors, judicial races, as well as district attorneys that we see all across the state of Georgia are under attack. After we do that, we're then going to spend time raising tremendous amounts of money. And in order to be able to do that, we need to raise money in the state. I've talked about establishing a Georgia 159 fund that allows us to raise money monthly at the grassroots level in the state of Georgia, while then also re-engaging the business community in the great state of Georgia versus just abandoning that, saying we can't raise money with businesses, because we are in fact pro-business Democrats as well. And then we'll establish a strong national fundraising arm that allows us to not only engage the DSCC, the DCCC, but folks like Emily's List, but more importantly, folks who have consistently given the Democrats across this nation, not just from New York and California, but individuals that we've got broad relationships with that we'll then bring to this conversation. I'm Hardy Davis, and I'm asking for your support on Saturday.
Thank you, Hardy. The next candidate is Jay Jacks.
I thank y'all for coming out here and dealing with the gnats like everybody else has to deal with the gnats. Now you see what South Georgia really looks like. My name is James J. Jones. Most people call me Jay. And I'm running to be the next chair of the Democratic Party of Georgia. Why? Because we need a voice from the South, just like we have a voice in the North. Now, I want it also understood that CD1 was also included in bringing this thing down here. We didn't get into the rudiment, into the planning of it, because I'm running for chair and I didn't want to have anything as far as being having an advantage. So I do want to put out there this though. I'm the only chair that's running with experience from a chair position, from a congressional district position, and sitting on the executive committee and the DEI committee and all the various committees across the state of Georgia. It's very important that we hit the ground running hard when that seat comes open and we get elected into that seat. Because May the 4th is too late. We are already behind the gate. We're already behind the gun. We need to get out rolling. And in order to get out rolling, we got to have leadership that's already ingrained in the party, not trying to learn the steps of the party. We already have an 88 person strategy already set, ready to motion. We already have tours planned to go across the state of Georgia, already set in motion. This is already set. We just need a chair to drive the car. Consistency, accountability, and reliability. And if we make those three happen, we can make Georgia happen for everybody. And I'll turn it over. My name is James J. Jones, and I look forward to having a candid conversation with you tonight. Thank you.
Our next candidate is Elena Sanders.
Thank you so much for having me this evening. I come before you as a proven leader. We have a problem, Georgia. We already have 400,000 people who are about to be purged from the list, and we don't even have a strategy yet. We already have elections that are about to happen in June, and we don't even have a playbook to go by. When you say proven leadership, when you're a leader, you are going to lead regardless. I have already sent out my 30-day plan on what we should do on day one and how we're going to structure that. First of all, we have to assess the operation of the Democratic Party. What is the definition of insanity? When you're constantly doing the same thing over and over again and not getting results. So we have to do something different to get the results. And that's making sure we're going from the rural counties all the way to the urban, to the suburban counties, and finding out what is happening in those areas and why people are not voting. The issue that I also have is that when I look at that state committee member list, all the counties are not represented. Has anyone ever went to go see why they're not active? That is the issue. We constantly keep moving and not finding strategies and just being silent. We can no longer be silent as Democrats. We're getting our butts kicked. So we have to make sure we put people in the seats that are going to be held accountable. You cannot just elect them and keep them there. You have to hold them accountable to make sure they're doing the job. We have to get the funding up. I've already raised, and just in my community alone in Newton County, $4 million so to build a facility. So we can get the funding, but by constantly throwing money at something you don't even know the issue of the problem and don't have the solution, we have to make sure we get it right. And that's what we have to do. As your next chair, I have that strategy. I am also a college professor who teach operation management. I've been doing this for 20 years. I've been an operation manager. So I've been doing these various things for many years, marketing, consulting, and all those things. You have a leader who has the experience, and that's Elena Sanders. I am Elena Sanders.
Thank you, Elena. Our next candidate is Wendy Davis.
Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. It doesn't sound like it's on to me. Is it on? You want to wait?
Thank you. Yay! Sorry for the delay. My name is Wendy Davis. Good evening. How are you? I'd like to earn your vote to be the next chair of the Democratic Party of Georgia, and I want to thank the people who hosted tonight in this beautiful space. We need to tell them to get a little road and put a different address on it so it's easier for everybody to find, I think. I have spent my adult life working in the Democratic Party of Georgia. I've also professionally worked in campaigns all over Georgia and all across the country. I started as a young Democrat, and I learned the ropes there. I then became involved in my county party when I lived in Fulton County and was a young Democrat and helped found the North Fulton Democrats. When I moved to Rome, one of the first things I did after I got to town was join the party. Next year, I was an officer. I've been involved in the Floyd County Party since 1999. And I've been on the state committee since 2002. I've been on the executive committee since 2012, when y'all were kind enough to elect me to represent you at the DNC. At the DNC, I don't just go to the meetings and sit in the room. I make our presence known by lifting up the voice of rural voters and Southern voters and making sure that I'm pushing the DNC to take action. People know who I am there. I have relationships across this state from my work as a volunteer with the party, with my leadership jumping in where I can solve problems. At my county party, I organize our voter protection captains. Our voter protection captain. I organize over 100 volunteers for every election to cover our polling places. The work that you do at the county level matters, and we haven't given you enough support, and you know that. The people who've run for office, particularly in these challenging races in difficult districts, we haven't given you enough support. This is our chance at this inflection point when we have decided as a state committee to change our model to be a true battleground, and it's up to you to make the right decision.
Thank you, Wendy. Next is Nikita Hemingway.
I think this works. Yay!
Teamwork.
My name is Nikita Hemingway. I am a fifth-generation farmer, entrepreneur, former corporate executive, wife, mother, Congressional District Vice Chair for CD10, and the interim co-chair of Walton County Democrats. And I have thrown my name in the hat to be the chair of the Democratic Party of Georgia. In 2020, I was the nominee for House District 104, was the last remaining red district of Gwinnett County, and I ran against a three-term incumbent with a $1.3 billion budget. And we were just shy of flipping that seat, losing by only 739 votes. In 2022, I was the Democratic candidate for Commissioner of Agriculture, and I amassed 1.7 million votes in that race with just $58,000. And it wasn't luck, it was determination, it was grassroots organizing, it was having a plan to communicate, it was traveling this entire state, getting to know every corner, every business owner, every person, and not just talking, listening. The truth is, we've already proven to ourselves with races like Reverend Warnock and John Ossoff
that we can win big in the state of Georgia. But the problem is that we've been too divided in our efforts. We pitted personal gain versus working together as a team. We said we're on this side and this candidate needs money while starving other candidates. We haven't invested in our state party. We haven't invested in our county committees. Well, when you elect me, that all changes. Because the reality is we're in this fight together. We're one team. We should always have one vision, and that is to win as many seats as we possibly can, to flip the state of Georgia and turn it blue. Nikita Hemingway, thank you.
Thank you, Nikita. Our final candidate is Charlie Bailey.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Charlie Bailey. Right now, y'all seen it, there's been a spate of polls, and they show our popularity, the Democratic Party's popularity, at historic lows, our disapproval at historic highs. And we got to take some responsibility that a lot of that is a loss of credibility we have with our own voters and with swing voters. They don't know that we're fighting for them. Well, here's the thing. The only hope for working people in this state, in this country, is the Democratic Party. The only hope that I can turn off the microphone. The only hope that we can have an expectation someone's not going to be snatched off the street in broad daylight, hauled off to God knows where without an attorney, without evidence, is the Democratic Party. So regardless of where we sit right now, we ain't got no choice but to get better. It increases the burden on the state party to do its one job. And I do believe it only has one job. That is to elect as many Democrats to as many offices across this entire state as is humanly possible. And if we agree that that is the job, then we got to say, well, what does the state party chair got to do? In my opinion, 3 things right off the bat. Number 1, got to raise a tremendous amount of money. I've done that. It's not hypothetical with me. In my 2 runs for statewide office, I raised well over $4 million. In 2018, I got 49% of the vote running against an incumbent. In 2022, I had the closest margin of any statewide nominee not named Raphael Warnock. That's number 1. We're going to raise that money. Number 2, what do we do with that money? We're going to spend that money directly, strategically, and effectively on behalf of Democrats to beat Republicans and flip these seats. No more letting our folks be out there fighting with 1 arm or 2 arms tied behind their back. Number 3, we're going to invest that money to build our infrastructure through our county parties all across the state. Look forward to talking to y'all tonight.
Thank you, Charlie. Okay, let's get into some of the questions, and these were submitted by Democrats just like you. Patty asks, what is your strategy for building a true statewide party? Listen carefully. Please be specific. What is your strategy for building a true statewide party? Please be specific. We're going to allow all the candidates to answer this, so this will be a 1-minute answer. And why don't we start with Jay Jones?
Justin. Easy answer is this. You already have a structure already existing in the Democratic Party. That structure is your 14 congressional district chairs. You don't have to break it down to 159, because if you work through the 14 congressional district chairs that already pre-exist, they're already working with those committees in those areas. Yes, we need to get aggressive at getting at those county committees that don't have officers in play right now, so we can make sure that 159 exists. But that starts with leadership, making sure they ensure leadership supports each other. What that looks like is a chair and executive committee supporting the 14 congressional districts, not just in verbiage, but in support financially speaking, and making sure that those candidates all the way down to Camden County, all the way up to North Georgia, get the same kind of respect. Because we always see money get divvied out, but we never see it get divvied out down here in the South. And so what we have to do is make sure when we put this strategy out here, we're going 14 congressional districts strong, all the way across the board. Thank you.
Next, let's hear from Wendy Davis.
Yeah. It doesn't start at the top. It starts at the foundation.
and the foundation of our party are the county committees. And we don't have a county committee in all 159 counties, but in addition to not having one everywhere, our goal has always been just that 159 county committees exist. I don't want our county committees to merely exist. I want them all thriving. And I want them all empowered and equipped to be able to move forward and get the job done. Because at the county is how we reach the entire state. Now, some places where we don't have a committee yet, it's going to take a lot of creative work to find the people, but we have people there already. We just have to give them tasks to do that are doable. And one of the things I think this year gives us a special opportunity to do is focus on municipal races. And we'll talk more about how that works when I have longer than 60 seconds.
Thank you, Wendy. Nabila, what's your strategy for building a true statewide party? Please be specific.
So we need a strategic plan that is data-driven, that includes the voices of the chairs of our county committees from all across Georgia and our CD chairs. We also need a budget that is reflective of a statewide investment. That means investing in our county committees and also investing in that field infrastructure to make sure that we have canvassers and organizers across the state. On my way here, I was talking to someone that said he was so jaded he didn't believe that folks would actually invest in rural Georgia. Folks, we can't just win with just Atlanta. We have to build a coalition of voters from across the state. Rural and urban, Latino and AEPI, and Black. Rural voters and young voters. And so under my leadership, I will invest in our county committees, I will invest in new voters, and I will invest in our rural counties. Thank you.
Charlie Bailey.
Yeah, we've got to provide support to our county committees that exist. Things like technical support with their website, social media, organizing training, communication support, research. One of the things I want to do is build a research department in the state party to make sure that all our county committees are getting the best information about all the Republicans and what they're up to in their areas so that they can communicate with people in their communities. But another thing I want to do is, instead of having a convention every 4 years, we're going to have an annual convention. And that's going to be the anchor for our year-round organizing, because yeah, we're going to bring in big speakers to make those speeches, but it's going to be a working convention with workshops on organizing, on fundraising training, on communications training. And I'm from a rural part of the state. I'm from Harris County, Georgia. Where I'm from, so rural, it's in between two towns, all right? I understand what it feels like to be out there and kind of be by yourself. You're not going to be by yourself when I'm chair.
Elena, what is your strategy for building a true statewide party? Please be specific.
Thank you for that question. The first thing we must do, I haven't heard, is we have to listen. We have to go into the areas to find out what they need. We can constantly throw things at them. We can make up plans every day, all day, but that might not be what that area needs. Look at the list and see who's not represented. Actually be present as a chair going into those areas. Talking to the people to see, okay, this area needs more boots on the ground. This area needs more funding. Every area is treated different. It's not a one-stop shop here. We have to change it up in here with the Democratic Party. And once we do that, as you heard from my, I would say colleagues, but heard from my counterparts here, we have to provide the training. Now that training starts from the local level, also from the CDs, because as we have been traveling on this campaign trail, you have heard from a lot of the districts is that they are not getting response from their CDs. And so we have to make sure training also trickles down from the top to the middle to the bottom so they know how to communicate with the people who actually are the boots on the ground. And once we do that, we can have a perfect strategy.
Thank you. Peter, same question.
My strategy is to build a coalition. We are the Democratic Party of Georgia, not the Democratic Party of county parties and congressional district chairs. So that means we must be a partner in the fight with grassroots organizers throughout the state, with the PACs that invest in our candidates, with our state legislators. They don't have a seat at the table in the decision-making process.
In order to get results, we have to stop thinking about what we can do in this institution in its current state and expand it out to be more encompassing. And then finally, while in theory it sounds good to have 159 county parties, the reality is that we can't. Because in 2025, there are counties where Democrats can't put a flag in their yard because they are afraid for their lives. There are Democrats who can't show up to vote in primaries because they don't want their neighbors and their friends at their kids' schools know that they're Democrats. So we've got to be strategic in how we give people voices throughout this state. Thank you.
Thank you. Finally, Hardy Davis.
Thank you, Matt. As your next chair, it starts first and foremost with this, holding the existing state committee members accountable for the work at hand, and that is to power Georgia to victory. That hasn't been done over the last 4 election cycles in a broad sense. I've talked about, one, making sure that we build from the bottom up. Just as Nikita said it a moment ago, and I've been saying this for the last couple of forums, we've got to engage our elected officials. We've got to engage Democratic elected officials in this conversation and bring them to the table, and then establish our regional hubs. Those regional hubs will involve having county chairs and congressional district chairs, but it must require that we bring elected officials to this conversation, starting at the local level because they're trusted voices, and then going to our legislative voices to get them involved in helping to elect other Democrats. That's not being done now, but that's critical for us if we're going to be successful in the state of Georgia, winning from the bottom up, and then making sure we're deploying resources that are available to us at the county level and at the congressional level, because we've got elected officials in this conversation as well.
Okay, this next question comes from Harold, but I think also Alicia would appreciate this question. Because there have been no Public Service Commission elections in the past 5 years, voter awareness will be a major challenge in both the primary in June and the November general election. How would you approach raising the profile of these elections and make it easy to understand for the voters? Let's start with Elena.
I've been saying it all along, awareness and marketing. We cannot start advertising for an election during an election. It doesn't work. We have to strategize throughout the entire year. People have no idea what the Public Service Commissioner does. I had to educate people. I said, okay, do you have high bills? They understand that. We have to explain it to them in various ways so they understand what the importance of the various elected official jobs. So by doing that and educating the voter and letting them know what's important on getting out in June, that would get them to the polls. As well as we need to go to those areas who don't consistently vote, because this is a statewide election, not a section of the state of Georgia or a district. We have to let them know how important this is to change the game in Georgia. Our utility bills are high. How many can say that? Yes? And we have to change it out. These individuals have been sitting on this seat, not being held accountable. How many people actually know when this Public Service Commission meetings are held? We don't. So we have to start there first with education to make sure that we are in place. And then once we do that, we can educate the voter. Thank you.
Thank you. Nikita, same question. How would you approach raising the profile of the PSC races?
So I actually had this issue with my race because most people don't understand that the ad commissioner is the person who approves what happens in your grocery store, and they're over the gas pumps, and they're over bottled water and manufacturing. Voter education is simple. If we did PSAs, which are free, to say, hey, have your light bills gone up 5 or 6 times in the last few years? It costs us nothing to do that. We've got to be strategic about how we reach people, and it doesn't always have to include money. It doesn't always have to have a candidate's name attached. It's simple education. And when we do that, we've already lifted the candidates at the very bottom. Because, hey, we have 2 PSC races this year, but we have 2 more next year. So even though we're starting the race for these 2 now, we can start the race for the next 2 at the same time. And so we can take the information that we learn from these 2 races, regardless of whether we win and lose, and build upon that.
Hardy, same question. How would you raise the profile for the PSC elections?
I'd start first with a social media campaign. Facebook impressions, Instagram, starting there first. That is a critical path and tool for us to be able to elevate not only what the PSC is, but also to elevate who the potential candidates are who happen to be Democrats. I then take every opportunity to, because there's public service opportunities, to tell every radio station across the state of Georgia that there are elections taking place, and here's a public service announcement. Do you know who your public service commissioner is? Do you know what the work is that they're doing? That will be the first thing that we could do in engaging residents, Democrats, citizens all across the great state of Georgia, but from a targeted perspective, focus on social media impressions, particularly around Facebook, letting people know who our candidates are.
Jay, same question.
First off,
Hello.
First off, you hear me now? All right, now you can start the clock. First off, we have to educate people about what the power of the Public Service Commissioner can do. Number one, I want to backtrack a conversation because training already does exist in the Democratic Party. It's training done with Sarah Todd, with all the chairs, and everybody is available to be at those trainings. But we have to double down and make sure that everybody knows about 10 or net. 10 or net. Those are the three main things that the Public Service Commission deals with: natural gas, electricity, and telecommunications. If you start telling people that those three things are affected and by who we put in those places, they will listen. But we have to energize the electorate to understand that telecommunication, electricity, and natural gas are important to everyday lives. And Trump is doing a good job of letting us know we need to pay more attention to how our bills play.
Nabila, same question about the PSC races.
We need to sensationalize this race. Bring media attention to this. This is the first major race after Donald Trump won for president, right? So if we want to really stick it to Republicans and Trump, this is an opportunity for Democrats to get out and have their voices heard. Right now, the PSC is just a shill for Georgia Power, essentially, and all these major corporations who are running us over and making us pay exorbitantly high power bills. And working people are the ones that are suffering the most in Georgia. We have some of the highest power bills in the entire nation. So as long as we do a strong media campaign, get up on TV, let folks know what's happening, folks will be energized to come out and vote. We've seen the marches. Don't you think those people want to go out and vote and have their voices heard and be a mandate against the Republicans and Trump? I think this is a great opportunity to energize our voters and get them to the polls. Thank you.
Wendy, what would you do to elevate the PSC races?
So let me start by thanking again Dr. Alicia Johnson for stepping up to run. And I want all of you to visit with her before you leave because I know she wants to come talk to your community. It's a long way to November and she's got a lot of people to meet. But this race is about power in a couple of ways. Power, like your power bill. Would you want to be the Republican incumbents who have to defend raising your rates over and over and over again? The media is not going to get lost in a sea of all kinds of things because those are the only two statewide races. They're going to be talking about it a lot. Dr. Johnson is running against an incumbent who is in his 9th year of his 5-year term, right? That's going to bother people. But what we need to tell them is the important thing about power is not their bill, it's their power. They have the power to pick somebody who's going to be an advocate for them. Just like you have the power on Saturday to pick somebody who's going to dig deep, raise a lot of money, but make sure those resources are spent from the foundation up.
Charlie Day.
So how do we make sure people know about this race? Well, how do people know anything? They saw it, they read it, somebody told them about it. Some of these, my friends have already talked about, this ain't it's not the Public Service Commission, it's the Georgia Power Commission, the way these Republicans have been running it. But folks aren't gonna know that if we don't tell them. That takes 1, earned media, and 2, paid media, 3, organizing. Earned media is when we use a research department that I talked about to get up everything on these 2 incumbents, every single vote they have taken to enrich Georgia power at the expense of the working people of this state, and we hammer them in the press with that. In the newspapers, on local TV, on radio, on every podcast, on social media, everything. 2, paid media. We got to raise a heap of money. The candidates are hard work doing it. We got to do it too. And then we got to deploy that money. What did I say before? Deploy that money on behalf of candidates that are running and hammer these Republicans. Then we got to organize, but I ran out of time.
Okay, this next question, let's do 30 seconds for this next question because you guys have already answered it once. I think you've got some practice here. Nikita, let's start with you. Please describe your direct involvement with the Democratic Party of Georgia. What has your direct involvement with the Democratic Party of Georgia been prior to seeking this role?
So I am the vice chair of CD10, and I am the interim co-chair of Walton County Democrats, which if you guys paid any close attention to the wins that came out of Georgia, Walton County, which has historically been an all-red county for decades, went blue by 3.3 points. And I recruited, just 2 weeks ago, my neighbor to run for a flippable seat.
Thank you. 30 seconds. We're moving fast on this one. Charlie, same question.
When I went to the University of Georgia 2.5 decades ago, I joined the Young Democrats. I became political director of the Young Democrats. After that, I went to work for a congressional candidate. I was a political director. That's the old 12th. Came all the way down through Statesboro and all the way up to Athens. I then worked on Mark Taylor's campaign, the last Democratic lieutenant governor of this state, the big guy, and I managed a congressional race in the old 10th. I was a member of the Athens-Clarke County Party that entire time that I stayed in Athens, probably a little bit too long. And then after that, Red Clay, 2-time statewide nominee.
Elena.
I have been working with the Democratic Party since I was the age of 18. Joking as a county commissioner, as a Democratic elected official, and have assisted with campaigns from the state level all the way down to the local level, getting candidates elected, and they are currently actually elected right about now. So my role within the Democratic Party just didn't start from coming on to be a candidate. It started years before, working with our affiliates as well as working family parties, local progress, and many others.
Wendy.
No way I can do it in 30 seconds. WendyForUs.com, and you can see all the positions I've held with the party. Young Democrats, I was a chapter officer president. Statewide of Young Democrats, I was an officer president, won Young Democrat of the Year. In my county committee, I've been an officer consistently. I was a volunteer of the year there. On the state committee, I've been involved and led things like our strategic planning process. As your DNC member, I'm Southern State's vice chair. I'm on the Important Credentials Committee. WendyForUs.com and see the rest.
Hardy, same question.
You can go to hardydavis.com. As a Young Democrat, I served as a grassroots organizer for the late Senator Ed Tarver, former U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Georgia. I've served also as a delegate to the DNC. I've attended multiple state conventions and a member of the Richmond County Democratic Party while serving in the legislature as a state representative, state senator, and most recently as the mayor of Georgia's second largest city, not Columbus, Augusta, Georgia.
Under time, that's perfect. Jay.
I'm gonna be under time too. Everybody, if you have one of these, my political experience is right there. It's right there. I was a delegate 2024, Democratic National Convention. I'm currently the chair of the 1st Congressional District. I sit on multiple boards. Chair of Chatham County, where we in 2020 flipped Chatham County and we turned everything blue. And the last thing, I was a Chatham County Commissioner elected by the Chatham County Democratic Committee. And anything else is on the back of the program.
In 2022, I helped raise $50,000 for the Gwinnett County Democrats so they could send out ads in Spanish, Korean, and Vietnamese. In 2020, I raised hundreds of thousands of dollars to put out a GOTV plan where we reached out to over 100,000 voters. I also rechartered the Young Democrats when I was 23 years old, back in 2013, and I also worked on Jason Carter's gubernatorial campaign and traveled with him all over the state. I am a committed Democrat and currently a state senator. Thank you.
Nabila, stay up here for me. We'll start this next question, which will be for everybody. We'll do 1 minute. What is your plan to support rural Democratic county committees?
So my plan to support rural Democratic county committees is to make sure that they have the financial resources in order to run an operation. I spoke to a woman the other day that talked about that where they had to rely on PAC money to be able to pay their canvassers, get food, help their volunteers. The DPG's responsibility should be to invest in our county committees in rural Georgia and also train them on cutting digital tools so that they can reach out to their voters. I want to make sure that their voices are included in our strategic plan that will be data driven. I want to make sure that all of our voters in rural Georgia that are Democrats, whether they're low propensity, medium propensity, or high propensity, are being engaged with. But we can't do that if our county committees are not empowered and they don't have the resources. So under my leadership, as you know, I'm very committed to supporting our county committees. I will make sure that they have the resources to succeed. And lastly, messaging will be county-led from rural Georgia, and I want to make sure that they're hearing from the voices from our county committees. Thank you.
Party, same question. What's your plan to support rural Democratic county committees?
First, I'll start with listening. I've talked to so many state committee members and county chairs over this last couple of weeks time frame and about what they need. Starting first and foremost with support, and that support that shows up on time, every time, not just during presidential and gubernatorial elections. And then making sure that as the next chair, we're providing them with the resources from a monetary perspective, but then going into those communities, making sure that we're helping them raise dollars, but also to identify, recruit, train, and then run candidates for school board, sheriffs, county commissions, city councils, judicial races, as well as district attorneys, because those are the things that Democrats, particularly our rural Democrats, need right now in order to feel loved, in order to feel heard and seen, so that we can win from the bottom of the ticket to the top of the ticket. That's what we'll do.
Thank you. Jay.
I have one of the counties in my district that has had a long time suffering of voter suppression. Voter suppression is hitting a lot of people hard. A lot of people don't even want to deal with the Democratic Party because guess what? They feel the party's not going to step up for them. Brantley County has 10,000 residents. 10% are Democrat, the other 90% are Republicans. And guess what? They're always campaigning because when I drove up here, I'm glad all my colleagues got to come up here because guess what? We've been seeing since 2016, they've been advertising Trump. Trump signs from 2016 are still on the road. That is what we have to deal with in rural Georgia. We can theorize, we can hypothetical conclusions, but guess what? Reality is they want somebody who's going to listen in rural Georgia. And you got to go 3 or 4 times before you get them to actually start buying into you. That's what kind of work the chair has to do. The next chair has to be willing to go out there and listen to the people.
Elena, what's your plan to support rural Democratic county committees?
First, I want to say with me coming from Newton County, which is closer to Atlanta, but people don't realize that there are rural areas that are close to the Atlanta area, like Newton County, Walton County, and Morgan County, and Jasper. I know firsthand how we don't see the resources in those various counties to elect the people that we need and to provide those resources for those candidates. So what I definitely would do, because I'm a part of that rural area, I would make sure those resources are there. And as I've always been saying, I've been saying for the past forums, we have to listen and we have to assess. This is not a one-stop shop. So we have to make sure that each rural county, as we have assessed and done a strategic plan, have exactly what what they need to move forward. The training has to be there. We have to make sure that we're present. I've listened to many of our committee members and rural area members. They said that the Democratic Party is not present. So I want to make sure as a chair I am present and I'm here available and accessible and relatable, as we talk about that car, and he talked about that car, but relatable as well, so I'm available to provide those resources. You have to be present for number one. And once we do that, we have to get the training in the rural counties because they do not have the necessary materials. Thank you.
Nikita.
Last June, when I was asked to be the interim co-chair of Walton County, the issue that was posed before me is that the county hadn't had meetings in several months. And the reason behind it was because they couldn't meet quorum. The average rural county in Georgia has less than 20 members. So the first thing that needs to happen is we have to grow their membership base. And the second thing is hand-holding. Because sometimes the things that we take for granted as being easy, as being default, is not necessarily for them. Many of our rural counties are managed and ran by seniors who are not social media savvy, who do not know how to build a website, who may have spotty internet connection. So we've got to make this a system that works for everybody. Meet people where they are. That is how we support rural counties, by identifying the issue they have and speaking to that instead of having a generalized approach to the issues. Thank you.
Charlie.
Like I said before, I'm from Harris County on the western border of the state. I remember Mama driving around in a car with a Dukakis sticker on the back. Chair, there weren't any other cars with Dukakis stickers on the back in Harris County. I know what it feels like to kind of be out there, like I was saying before, and feel like you don't have somebody backing you up. That's why that annual convention is so important, so we can be connected to each other. That's the hub around which we do the organizing. So all the people that are out there, it may be like Harris County and you don't have the opportunity. The only people who represent us in Harris County, Democrats, are the 2 United States Senators. That's it. We can't fight for local races, but we can fight for statewide. So what are we going to do? We're going to invest in our county committees and make sure they have that support, the technical support, the social media support, the communication support, the organizing training, so they can do what they know best, which is communicate in their communities about the Democratic message, and they can credibly say that the Democratic Party has their back, because we will have their back. That's what we're going to do.
Thank you. I was twice elected as city commissioner in Rome, which most people wouldn't necessarily call it rural, but it's small town Georgia, which is what we have in these rural areas. I did Congressman Bishop's reelect in 1996 in 31 counties in southwest Georgia. I did another campaign that was West Georgia with a lot of rural counties. I've run 2 statewide campaigns, including for David Poitras, who was the first candidate to raise a contribution from all 159 counties. And why do I say that? Because it took effort. Like, it was $5 someplace, right? But it was important for us to show that he had support from all over this state. What do you need to be successful? You need people paying attention to you first, hearing what your challenges are, and offering solutions. I want to have action teams, not just one person you can go to, but I want to have a team that you can call if you want to learn about social media things. I want another team about communication, another team to help you with training on Vote Builder, another team to help you with candidate recruitment, because we have, just on the state committee, 300 people who said, I want to lead, and we've left them sitting in a seat.
Everybody got to answer that question, right? Okay. All right, let's move on to another question. We've been talking about, throughout these forums, we've been talking about all of the different demographic groups within Georgia. And the AAPI group is the fastest growing demographic group in Georgia, but voter engagement efforts still lag. What is your plan to address this? Let's start with Hardy.
We'll start the same way. It's listening. I always like to go to trusted voices. Voices that are recognizable, voices that the AAPI community already knows and understands. And one of the things that we've done as the Democratic Party is we've sometimes left them aside, and that one community our faith community. There's so much that reverberates around the faith community, and when we talk about trusted voices, it's leaning into that, and if there's ever been a time for us to do that, it's now. People find sanctuary even in the local church, just like our Latin community does, when they're worried about whether they're going to be picked up and taken away from America. And so it's important for us to start there in our faith community with trusted voices and bringing those conversations to bear of what's important to our AAPI community. Jobs, healthcare for all, safe neighborhoods, safe schools. And so that's our strategy. That's what we've done before. That's worked all across Augusta and across the CSRA, and we'll continue to do that as the next chair.
Jay, what's your plan to increase AAPI turnout?
I think the same plan goes for anybody's turnout. I think we need to address every single pocket and bring everybody to the table. The AAPI is just another portion that we need to be bringing to the table. We have far too long forgotten folk and not bringing everybody to the table. There is plenty room at the table. We have to be able to drive the car and bring people to the table when they're not at the table. So when we talk about that car, we have to be consistent, accountable, and reliable. And if we're not doing those 3 points right there, then we're not worried about getting everybody to the table, because there's too much room at the table. We lost this last election by 100,000 plus votes. We can do better if we make sure we identify everybody and bring them to the table.
What is your plan to increase AAPI voter engagement and turnout?
So first of all, we need bigger tables and more chairs. But we need to have conversations where people are. We have an AAPI caucus. We have lots of caucuses and councils that right now we're kind of treating as just subdivisions of our state committee. They're supposed to be the on-ramps to the party. Folks who don't feel a part or welcome or valued in our democracy aren't going to come show up for a state committee meeting, right? We have to go where they are, and we have to recognize that our neighbors of Asian descent aren't all a monolith, right? There are a lot of different communities, a lot of different language. We have to have in-language materials, but importantly, we have to bring folks to let them lead, even if that leadership is just participating in what amounts to a focus group, but we won't call it a focus group, right? Like a town hall of where we're hearing their voices and learning and finding out how we can get more involved in leadership so they can help us reach voters by being our trusted voices.
Nikita, same question.
One thing we can agree on is everyone wants to live life on their terms, and they want to have dignity and respect. As a woman, a black woman, one of the 92%, I get tired of the Democratic institution saying black women are the backbone of our party, but you don't invest in our campaigns. The reality is we've got to stop trying to reach people and allow them to be the leaders in their community. We've got to give them this platform and allow them to choose how they want to show up. We've got to support them. They have leaders in their community. Give them the opportunity to lead. Let's get them legislative seats. Let's get them on the statewide on the statewide ticket. Let's let them lead locally. Because our job is to be a real partner to everybody, not try and be a voice for everyone. Thank you.
Charlie.
So my wife, who is here, is South Asian Bengali woman. So if I don't get this right, it's not just political consequences, it's consequences at home.
It's a long way home.
It's a long way home. No, so it's been mentioned, yeah, there's in-language and that works, but you know, there's a lot of English first South Asians and Pacific Island Americans here. So that's not always the case. Yes, respected people in the community, that works. But I would say it's about messaging. The American dream is less attainable now than it was 20 years ago. The savage inequality of income inequality wrecks immigrant communities, whether they're first, second generation immigrant communities. We got to show folks that we are fighting for them against these Republicans, that take away their right to build a better life for their family. We show that fight, we give specifics about what we're going to do for them, and we will earn back the trust of the AAPI community. We'll get their votes just like we'll get the votes of communities across this state.
Well, I too am a South Asian Bengali woman. And the AAPI community tends to get overlooked because a lot of voters can be low propensity, right? And so people, our party doesn't really invest in them. I'll tell you what, when we message, when we reach out, Asian voters turn out. They came out in 2020, and we need to get them back out in 2026 and in 2025. That means organizing where they are, making sure we reach out to faith leaders, making sure we do canvases that are led by South Asians, reaching out to South Asians. Relational organizing is important. And not just South Asians, all AAPI voters. And I did this at the Gwinnett County Democratic Party. We invested in language ads in Korean, Vietnamese. We also did that in paid print media in 2022. We need to reach out to folks in the languages that they speak so that they feel heard and seen. Making sure our canvas walk materials are also in different languages. We want to be seen and be included in this party, and when we do that, we'll win. Thank you.
I'm going to take this to a different perspective. Georgia is a melting pot of many different cultures and language. We shouldn't just be talking about bringing people to the table, they should already be at the table. How can we as a Democratic Party talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion and fight for it on the federal and state level when we're not doing it within the party and bringing everybody to the table? So this shouldn't even be a conversation. It should have already been done because it makes us look hypocritical because we're fighting for various things on various levels, but we're not doing it within the Democratic Party. Now I'm going to take it to marketing as a marketing professor. Who are your top 3 spenders in the United States of America? Latinos, African Americans, and Asian have the buying power. And we're not reaching the people who have the buying power. Why? Because they have lost faith within the Democratic Party. We have to do rebranding. We have to do restructuring. We have to change our message to make people believe that the Democratic Party is here because there are so many people who have lost faith in our party. That's the reason why we are not being successful to this day. And until we change our messaging, until we change our marketing, we're going to still be at the same place at the same time.
Okay, let's start this next question with Charlie. Charlie, all the candidates in each of the forums have talked a lot about changes that y'all would like to make to the state party. This question is, tell us 2 things that the state party is doing really well right now that you want to keep.
You're doing a great job with this forum. You know, I think that we got a lot of good people in the party, a ton of good people, whether it's the staff, whether it's the state committee, whether it's the elected officials around the state. I mean, I think we do a good job of relationally, individually, letting folks know that we care about each other. You know, I think we do a good job of that. You know, when I ran statewide twice, there was a lot of good things about the coordination of our appearances. When we put on a big event, we can put on a really big event. I think that's another thing we do quite well. Everybody's seen pictures, like we can have the big rallies. I think we do that well. So I think the heart that people care for each other and the big events that we can put on when the lights are on, I think we do that, both those things quite well.
Nabila, what's working with the Democratic Party of Georgia?
I'll say that, look, our county committees are organized. They are showing up at their monthly meetings. Membership is sky high right now, and they're energizing voters. But I also want to continue that engagement by giving them the resources to build out their operations so that they can reach out to more voters and it be a force multiplier effect. So I want to capitalize on that energy and, you know, move the needle. I think also we've been taking the fight to the Republicans when it comes to communications. We're being loud about these Republican policies, and we should be. We're holding them accountable. So I think that they're doing a good job there as well. So I would say those 2 things I think are great, and we can build upon them and make them greater. Thank you.
Nikita, same question. What are 2 things the state party is getting right?
Honestly, I don't like answering this question.
First, I want to start with, and they're both really are the people. We have done an excellent job of hiring the most talented people across the state to manage our day-to-day operations, and they're always, always, always overlooked and never thanked enough. And thank you guys, because this party, the many moving parts, it takes that. The other thing is we have great grassroots organizers, great leaders within our party, but I'm sorry, I gotta say the bad, which is we don't invest in them. And we don't give them opportunities to even give more of themselves. So if we take this learning opportunity and invest in our people is our greatest gift to our mission. Thank you.
Party.
I think that the party has done an exceptional job, particularly at the county level, of meeting and establishing meetings that take place all across the state of Georgia, and they meet consistently. Whether it's the Fulton Democrats, the Fulton Mid-Democrats, Gwinnett County, there's a tremendous amount of that happens, and I think these meetings have to become more strategic in how we do our business. The second thing that I would say is that the people that I've met who are part of the staff are incredible people. I'm excited, looking forward to working with them because human capital is our greatest asset. And so those are the things that I'm looking forward to engaging in a broader way.
Thank you. Wendy.
We have a staff that does an amazing job, particularly with big things. Y'all, you think it's hard to do delegate selection and get a slate of 100 delegates? You should be the ones who manage making that work in another town and not losing money raising money doing it. That's just one little example of it. The thing right now I'm most proud of is our state committee and so many of our county chairs. First of all, at the meeting in Oglethorpe County, you came prepared and ready to change what we're doing as a party and to step forward as a battleground and say, we need a new chapter for the party. Y'all did that, you had the power. And the number of people who have been working collaboratively before there and between there and here really intensely to develop plans and ideas and questions, that's good work. We have great people. And the party isn't in Atlanta, the party is all of us.
Elena, what's working well with the state party?
I would have to say on a business level, you have gotten your business model correct. As far as the structuring, the organizational chart, establishing the state committee members, establishing your executive board, and establishing your local committees, you've gotten that right. But I'm kind of like Nakia, we have to make sure we're using the process. We have a structure, you have a plan, you have your organizational chart, but we have to make sure that all moving parts are definitely working. And in order to do that, you got to hold people accountable to make sure they're doing what needs to be done within the party. Because you have a model and a structure that is there, but we have to definitely utilize it. I want to say, before I even thought about running for this position, I was visiting other Democratic committees. And there are some Democratic local committees that are on fire. They are doing the right thing. And we have to constantly keep awarding those that are doing the right thing to make sure that we motivate them and use them as your training model. Bring them to other areas to see the ones that have gotten it right. It's great to learn from your peers versus bringing in outside people to train. So if they got it right in their areas, let's utilize our people. Thank you.
Two things I believe that are wonderful within the party structure. I'm gonna piggyback off of my friend here. The county structure in your top tier county structure is phenomenal. They organize, they communicate, and there's a lot that can be learned from that. The congressional district structure is a whole lot better this go round than what it was before. And I think the biggest thing that I really want to harp on, and he don't even know I'm gonna say that, but Justin, Cecilia, and all those people who work in that office, they do a damn good job of getting messaging out there and working with all the committees and all of us, because I know we can be a pain sometimes to work with, but they get the job done. And I'm truly appreciative of them for getting the job done and doing the work to make these things work for us as a party.
Okay, now we're at the point of the program where you guys get to ask the questions. So if you have a question that you would like the candidates to ask, if you would please raise your hand, and we have a handheld mic that we will bring to you. And we'll start with Lynn.
Thank you, Mr. Interim Chair. I don't know what to call you nowadays. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for coming down to Bullitt County. I've heard a lot about rural county. How many of you know who I am and what position I held besides Wendy and Charlie? Yeah, it's because you weren't on any rural council calls. If you want to know about rural county call issues, you need to get on those monthly calls that we have. We grew that organization, Patty and I and Tom and Kathy, from 12 people to now over 40 to 50 people at a time. So anyways, I'll get to my question. One thing I've not heard from any of you is your plan to get the staff out of Atlanta and get them throughout the state. Get them out where the people live so that they understand what the issues are throughout the state. You know, we live in 2025. I worked for 17 years as a director of public safety for Lucent Technologies. I was just a phone call away from my boss from Columbus, Ohio, and he was in New Jersey. He knew how to get a hold of me. You know, let's get people out and get them moving. Thank you.
So let's give every candidate a chance to answer this with 30 seconds. And, you know, let's get to the point here. And let's start with Wendy.
So I was a remote worker before remote working was cool. So I understand that you don't have to be face-to-face in an office to get the job done. We do need to have our staff out and about, not just working remotely, but working intensely with people across the state. I also saw, working on the coordinated campaign last year, how you can't organize rural voters from a high-rise office building when you're mandated to be at your desk 5 days a week. You can't do it well. Lesson learned.
Thank you. Elena.
I've kind of said it throughout the entire forum. My first thing that I want to do is I want to make sure that I hold those town halls regionally with the various areas to hear exactly what is going on in the area. As well as bringing the staff along, we can assess the issue, talk to you as well to find out what's needed in your community. Because the only way I can find out what's needed in your community is by having the conversation. A lot of times we make decisions for areas and we've never been present, or we're never speaking to the people who are actually utilizing the facilities in the areas. So I want to make sure that I converse with you and the people in that area. And I have been a rural caucus call to make sure that I find out what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Charlie.
Well, I mean, the answer to the question is we got to get out. And it's not just the staff, the chair has to. I've committed to go to every single county in this first year and a half and not just stop and take a selfie on the corner, but sit down with folks in the community, go in the fellowship hall of the church, have people bring everybody you can, and not for the cameras, but to have a conversation about what folks need on the ground. So, and I'm going to make the staff come with me, Lynn. And it's not that hard. Even if somebody lives in Atlanta, you can get in your car and drive. It ain't like barriers up there.
When I talked about building statewide infrastructure, I want to explain that for a little bit. We need regional field organizers in all corners of Georgia and canvassers that are from our communities. I want to spend money in rural Georgia hiring folks from these communities, and they're the ones that are leading the message. They're the ones that are knocking on the doors because they know their communities best. And when we talk about doing trainings to empower our county committees in rural Georgia, that doesn't mean you guys coming to Atlanta. That means us coming to you and making sure that you guys have the adequate training and the tools to get out and talk to voters. Thank you.
Jay.
The easy answer is this. I got 15 counties in the 1st Congressional District. 14 of them are rural. 1 is urban. And all 14 of them will tell you that I get out there and I talk to them because I understand how important the work is in rural Georgia. And so when I may not be on the caucus there, I'm on the DEI caucus, I'm on the executive committee, I'm on the bylaws committee, I'm also on all these other caucus. But it doesn't mean that I have not asked what's going on in rural Georgia. Because rural Georgia is just as important as urban Georgia, because we can only get there together, working together.
Hardy.
Thank you for the question. It starts first and foremost with taking the 15 staffers that we have and realigning them and matching our mission with our money, as well as our staff with that. We've got to do that first and foremost. And then coming into the communities as the chair, making sure that it's not a top-down approach, but we're with the people, listening, understanding, and then creating an opportunity for us to reach rural Georgia in a way that we've not done before. I go back to what I've consistently said over the last several weeks, and that is creating these regional hubs of action that allow us to fuel Georgia and move Georgia forward as a state.
So first, it is very important to understand what the staffers do and know that that's not a part of their job. Jay Jones touched on it. That is your congressional district chair job. And what this party has got to do is invest in congressional district chairs so that you can have outreach, so you can have a system in which everybody is traveling across the state and supporting you. But also the assessment that sitting on a rural council call is the measure by which we determine action in rural counties is an unfair assessment. Because what you don't know is even though I didn't win an ag commission seat, I take calls from farmers and business owners throughout the state and I educate them and connect them with resources. I make sure that rural is represented through action, not just by sitting in a meeting. Thank you.
Next question. Kelvin.
Come on, guys.
Can anybody not
You got to talk on the mic.
The internet demands to hear your question.
Are we live?
There we go.
I love this. You know, first and foremost, I'm excited about this process. And each and every one of you, I thank you for your bravery to get up here. Seriously, it's a big deal. Now, I preference what I'm about to say by saying thank you for your service. The essence. Going forward, this position is about leadership. We're asking the individual who wins this position of chair to lead us into the future, to lead us today, correct those things that have been wrong. Having said that, there's three of you, I know where you've been. I've watched you over the years directly involved in this organization. Respectfully, we all have other jobs and other organizations, other things that we have to do, but showing up for the DPG matters. And out of this panel, respectfully, there's only three individuals that I can say has been. The question is, in your leadership role, what have you?
I guess out of battery.
Right battery. In your leadership role, what will you do to establish a working organization? In your leadership role, how will you guide the party going forward? How? What capacity? Not just saying the chair.
How will you use your leadership role to guide the party forward?
Okay.
Is that it?
How will you lead how will you guide the party? Lead the party to guide us into the future. Okay.
Got it. Okay.
Let's talk about leadership.
Oh.
Next question.
Whitney speaks Kelvin, so Whitney, go ahead.
That's all right, we got it up here. Thank you for the question, sir, and thank you for going all the way to Toccoa earlier this week. What we have is an opportunity to have a new chapter of the Democratic Party of Georgia, and what that's going to take for it to be truly different is to change the leadership model. We've taken the first step. It's a full-time position. I'm not going to have outside work. I can do this all day, every day. I intend to do this all day, every day, but I intend to lead collaboratively. That doesn't mean I can't make a decision. I'm an Aries. I can make a decision, y'all. But I want our decisions to be team decisions and bringing people together from every corner of our party to lead in ways that excite them.
Thank you. Thank you, Wendy. Nikita.
For me, leadership is about service, and it's about investing in the people that we have in the party. It's about giving you an opportunity to be the best versions of yourself, because when you give your best, we win in the state of Georgia. It's just that simple.
Party.
Kevin, I'll operate from this perspective. Leadership that listens, leadership that learns, and leadership that loves the work so much that it engages the people across the entire state of Georgia, not just in Atlanta, not just the staff, to get the work of turning Georgia blue and moving Georgia forward.
Jay.
Kelvin, short answer is this. Driving that car, you got leaders who stand in front and leaders who stand behind. A good leader knows how to stand in front when the moments need to be standing in front, and they know how to stand behind and let their people lead the way. And we have to make sure we trust in a leader who understands when to lead from front and lead from behind.
Thank you for that question, Kelvin. By respecting your time, by having a strategic leadership, strategic plan that is data-driven, that empowers our voters, that empowers our staffers, our volunteers, so that when we go out and fight, we're making a difference, that we're moving the needle, because activity doesn't mean progress. And I want to make sure that when I say let's march and let's go, our marching orders are clear, and we know what we're doing to flip the state blue. Thank you.
Elena.
It's pretty simple. I've already sent my 30 days to the entire state committee on what I would do the first 30 days in office. He's shaking his head, he's got it. If you have not received it, I'll give it to you. I broke it down because a leader is strategic. A leader plans. When we don't plan, we fail. So I wanted to make sure that the state committee, from the members of the Democratic Party, would see my work within the first 30 days and where we're going and how we're going to take it to the next level. And that's why I wrote that plan, so you can see what type of leader that I am. I make sure I plan, I lead, and I'm strategic. Thank you.
Charlie.
Mr. Chair, it's about, in my view, honesty, respect, and hard work. In all my roles, leadership over my career in law and politics, I found if you treat people with respect, if you're honest with them, you can't always tell people yes. Everybody knows that. But you give them a reason if it's a no. You tell them why, and then you move forward. You communicate about, and I will communicate about what the plans are, and then we're going to keep you updated about how we're making those plans. So communicate, be honest, be respectful, and put the work in. Nobody's going to work harder than me.
Next question.
Hello. I'm Otha Thornton, the first vice chair of Cayuga County. This is for all the candidates. Being a leader is an art and a science, so I have a scientific question for each of you. What is the operational budget of the Democratic Party? And what are your projections on what we need to operate over the next year?
Are you asking Otha for what it is right now and what it will be?
Currently what they're planning, because if they're running for the chair, that's something that they should have in mind.
Okay. Okay, let's start with Charlie.
I've heard tell there's a budget, but I haven't seen it. Okay, so I can't tell you what the operational budget is because I haven't seen it. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I haven't seen it, so I can't answer that question. On what it will be, I mean, as much money as we can raise. I'm not going to put a cap on it. I mean, it's going to be millions, but how many? I don't know. You know, there's a potential to have tens of millions. That's a potential, but I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, we're going to have 25 million for sure. I don't know that. 11 million for sure. I don't know that. But it's going to be a hell of a lot of money, and I'm going to bust my butt every day to raise it, and then we're going to spend that directly to flip seats, elect Democrats, and build up our infrastructure.
As a fundamental question, and as probably the only scientist up here, as a former chemical engineer, to give you that answer, I think our budget should be right at about $11 million. And why I come with the budget of $11 million? Because there has been a strategic plan that has been shared, and it calculates to right at about $11 million. Now, to agree with what Charlie said, we have not been able to see a budget in pretense conversations. And that's a problem, because I come from government. And in government, you always make sure public understands, they know what you're working with.
I want our party to be great, and I want us to raise a lot. And right now, the Wisconsin Democratic Party, they raise between $60 to $80 million. Georgia is a crown jewel, a swing state with a seat where we have to re-elect a U.S. Senator with an open gubernatorial seat and down ballot seats. I think my high goal would be at least 25, medium is 20, and low goal would be 15 million. But I think we can get there. We can build the relationships to raise the tens of millions of dollars and match the energy of the Wisconsin Democratic Party. We can make this a great operation. Thank you.
Coming from a business background, as my counterpart stated, we haven't fully seen the operational budget. But in order to be able to get a plan together, in order for us to be able to get the people elected from the local level all the way to the state level, we have to go into at least the 3 digits of the millions, 200 million, to be able to be successful as a party. But we have to get that operational budget so we can see what is making our organization functional and what we have to pay in order to find out what we have to fundraise. Now, it would have been great if that was provided to us within our application process, so we know that. Even asking the state committee members, they have no idea. Thank you.
Party.
I'm going to parrot what everybody else said. I haven't seen the operational budget, but the operational budget would have to include the 15 staff members. And now that you're taking on the salary of a chair, you would include that. So just from a staffing perspective, you're starting with the budget that's roughly about $1.6 million. That's just for staff and the individuals who would be coming on, i.e. to include the new chair. Then you've got to include health care, you've got to include benefits. And so just from an operations perspective, you're going to start with a budget of about $6.5 million.
So we haven't seen a budget. I've also seen that $11 million strategic plan, and I can tell you in that plan, there's a lot of ways. We need to balance our budgets based on efficiencies. We don't need to just give director titles when a manager's title will do. Because when you don't understand that, what you're committing to is overpaying someone for a job that they would do at the reasonable rate. The other thing is we've got to spend money strategically across the state. Everything shouldn't be centralized in Metro Atlanta area. We've got to invest in our congressional district chairs too.
First time I asked to see the state party budget was when I was first on the executive committee when I was president of the Young Democrats of Georgia, and the executive director looked at me like I had 3 heads. Who is that little girl and why is she asking this question? This little girl has been asking that question over and over again. If you elect me to be your chair, you're not going to have to ask that question in a nobody's going to give you the answer way. We're going to have our budget be very public within our team. Guess what? All of our money is publicly disclosed. You're going to need to see it.
Thank you. Okay, I think we have time for one more question.
Sorry about the glasses on and off, but the gnats are growing crazy out here. Thank you so much for this opportunity to ask a question of the candidates, and thank you, candidates, for being here. My name is Dr. Tracy Fisher. I'm a district director with the Georgia Federation of Democratic Women. And I have this question to ask because there's a lot of static.
Keep going that way. Keep going back.
Keep going?
Keep going back.
Keep going?
Keep going back.
Keep going?
Out in front
How
of
about
you.
there? No?
There you go. There you go.
So this question is more of a social question. Diversity, equity, and inclusion has been at the center of a conversation avoided by Democrats, as well as from candidates for this position. My opinion is that everyone minus 1 trillionaire and a few billionaires is and are the beneficiaries of all of the legislation. I'm trying to avoid the static.
There we go.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. How do you all plan, each of you, I want everyone to answer this question, to educate the voters that anyone receiving Medicare, Social Security, CDC advice and medical advice, public school education, is and have been DEI recipients. They are DEI. What is your proactive message about DEI and Democrats? Because you're going to have to rally all these people in this county and in this state to DEI positively. That's my question.
Thank you. Hardy, let's start with you.
I think one of the most critical things for us to do is to be candid about talking about it. Just a few weeks ago, I heard Carla Harris talk about, we've been in this fight before, but let's have the conversation in a constructive way. And if we're educating Democrats, if we're engaging in that broader conversation ourselves, it doesn't really matter what you call it. We all want the same thing. How we appropriate that is where we find challenge at. Some of us drove Ford trucks down here. Others drove Tahoes down here. But we arrived at the same place. The message going forward is we've got to talk about diversity, opportunity, and inclusion that brings everybody into the conversation. Diversity, opportunity, inclusion, because people want opportunity, and it doesn't matter who you are, and we've not done a good job, but we'll do that as the next chair of this party.
It comes down to messaging. Look, Republicans made BLM, CRT, and now DEI bad words, right? And now we are seeing corporations and schools divest from DEI programs. We need to define how diversity, equity, inclusion have uplifted our diverse communities and given them opportunities, instead of letting Republicans define us and define what DEI is, because that's what's happened. Democrats have been bad, I'm gonna say this, bad at messaging, and Republicans have just been running away with it, and we can't let that happen anymore.
Thank you. I'm going to follow on. It is about messaging. The Republicans love to come up with cute little things, little bumper sticker things, little, this is the bad thing of the week. And we let them, instead of standing up and defending it. Let's talk about what you want instead. So instead of diversity, you want homogeny. You want everybody to be the same. Instead of equity, you want inequity. Oh, yes, they do want inequity. Look at what they're doing right now. Instead of inclusion, you want exclusion. We need to show people what they're doing that hurts everyday Georgians and stand up for the policies that have helped lift people up.
Politics is about who gets what and why. It's that simple. And when we share that message throughout the state, it's not about the buzzwords, it's not about DEI. If you want to have someone fight for you, sometimes it requires you fighting for somebody else. If you want your children to have great education, sometimes it means advocating for someone else's child to have education too. If we learn nothing from 2020, we should learn that all of our fates are tied together. We must care about our neighbors. We must care our communities. The details don't matter, but we can't win unless we win together. Thank you.
Charlie.
We all know what they do with this. It's the same old trick they've been doing for years, and it's just flat out racism. I mean, that is what they're doing with us. And what we got to say, and what I say and will say, is that diversity, equity, inclusion, there's nothing more American. There's nothing more American. That none of us would have any kind of opportunity but for diversity, equity, inclusion. And Wendy's right. Do you want everybody to be the same? Everybody ain't the same. You know, not everybody has the same religion. Not everybody grew up in the same place. And that's wonderful about America. We got to talk about what's wonderful about America, and it is our diversity, our inclusion, and the fact we think everybody gets an equal shot.
Dr. Tracy, I'm proud and thankful that you asked the question, because we need to be talking about diversity, equity, inclusion, not just in all those things you listed, but in the party. Because if we're not even going to have diversity, equity, inclusion in the party, then how can we go out there and fight for diversity, equity, inclusion in the community? We have to believe in something we fight for. And if we're not believing what we fight for, then we're not going to fight for that. And so when we talk about these things about diversity, equity, inclusion, Democrats are ready to cheer us on. We got to be the Ali of the fight and not sit back and wait for the fight to come to us. We got to be the one pushing the fight. And as Democrats, we can do that and we can lead the way. And as the next chair, I will do that.
Thank you, Ms. Chase, for that question. I don't talk about it much, but I'm a government affairs director and a lobbyist. So I lobby for these bills every day, all day, especially when they're doing session. And I also have a political show on iHeartRadio where I explain actually what DEI stands for and provide the messaging. I don't have a problem speaking about it because people have no idea. The Republicans have created this narrative that DEI is based on African Americans. And they don't know the statistics of who actually benefits from DEI. And so what I do is I take the time to explain it in layman's terms so people understand. So we have to get the messaging out there. I don't have a problem talking about it. Thank you.
Okay, we've come to the part of the program where we're going to give every candidate a chance to give a 2-minute closing statement. Then we'll have a few announcements. There's still plenty of snacks and food over here. We're going to go in reverse order from the openings, and so we will start our closing, 2-minute closing statements with Charlie Bailey.
Republicans have been in charge of our state for 22 years. In the last 12 years alone, 12 hospitals have closed. Of the 30 rural hospitals that are open now, 18 are at risk of closure. You look at the metrics that measure our kids' educational attainment and educational opportunity, we're last, second to last, third to last. The Republicans up in Atlanta under the Gold Dome have constructed a tax code that rewards billionaires, big corporations, and whoever the latest lobbyist was to buy them a bourbon and a steak dinner. The people of this state have full cause to be quite angry about the position the Republicans have put them in. And if we don't give voice to that and hammer these Republicans every single day, we're going to continue to lose credibility with our voters. My name is Charlie Bailey. I have spent my career fighting to get people justice in the courtroom, as a civil justice lawyer and as a prosecutor. You elect me your chair and I will fight every single day for the justice and the dignity of every person in this state. And we're going to hammer these Republicans. We're going to swing these seats back to Democrats. And with that, we get what? We get power for people. And that's the whole point of this. If we can't get power for people to change what they have to deal with day to day, we might as well just go home and sit down. That's what I'll do every single day. And if you elect me your chair, I promise you I'll make you proud. Thank you.
5 years ago, when I came to politics, I had one mission, and that was to fight people. And I've never started fighting for people. The reality is that is our job as Democrats in this state. We are the party of humanity. We are the party that fights for people every day. It's really simple. When we stop looking at each other as competition and allies in this fight, when we invest in the leaders that are here in our party, give them opportunities to grow and succeed, when we reach every corner of the state, sharing our resources with our allies, sharing resources with state elected officials and different organizations that backed our candidates, we win. It's that simple. And there is no greater joy than turning this state blue, and it is possible. But the work to do that begins today, because it's not just 2025 that we're making decisions about now, it's 2030. And if we don't flip this state by 2030, we're gonna be stuck here for another 10 years. So my name is Nikita Hemingway, and if you remember nothing about me, remember that I am in this fight because I'm betting on you, and I'm asking you to bet on me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank y'all for coming out tonight, for your intention and attention. You have been digging in. You have been asking tough questions. This is your time to take your power. What I want to be as your chair is the leader that empowers you and equips you. We're going to build year-round organizing that starts from where you want to have it, right? Your county committees. You already know we have an election when? This summer, this November. We're going to flip those PSC seats. We're going to win hundreds of city seats this November. We're going to prove that if you build it from the foundation up, you can be successful. You're going to have resources. We're going to have action teams that come help you fill the gaps, answer your questions, spur your creativity, share best practices. And I'll tell you what, I don't want you to vote for me for chair because I've been here the longest, but because I love this work. You want a mechanic to rebuild your engine who's been working on engines their whole life? I would get to do this full time now, y'all, not just when I can afford to. I would like to be your chair because I want to work beside you, alongside you, with you to change this party because the people of Georgia deserve our leadership. My name is Wendy Davis. You can read more about my extensive involvement, my career as a political operative at wendyforus.com. But remember, you are the ones who have the power. And Saturday, I hope you will take your power to change the party. Thank you.
Time is ticking, and we don't have time. One of the things being on the Board of Commissioners and being elected officials, I learned one thing, that Republicans stick together. We don't stick together as Democrats. Why? Because they have a plan, they have a playbook, and they're not going to go against the plan. Because we don't have a plan, we don't have a playbook, we have nothing to follow. And I want to be that leader to help create that strategy, and that's why I started giving those 30 days of what's going to happen, because we don't have the time to be messing around. We have to constantly keep strategizing year after day because we're about a year and a half behind, and they're kicking our butts. And we have to do better. We have to make sure that we're getting the voters out, getting them registered, and finding out who are those individuals who are being purged from the Georgia list, 400,000 people, and we don't have a plan as a Democratic Party. We have to raise the funding. We have to get the money out there to get those people from the local level, from the city to the counties, to the state, to the federal level, to make sure we have people who are actually in office fighting for democratic issues. And if they are not, we have to hold them accountable to the fullest extent. We can no longer be silent. We can no longer play favorites because we don't have time. And we have to think about those things. If we want to have things change in Georgia, we have to get on the bus. We have to make sure we have things that are put in place for the people on the local level to be able to fight for those various things in those counties, to be able to fight for those things in the state level. We have to support our state legislators. I rarely saw the Democratic Party during session. When I'm lobbying and opposing bills, I did not see the Democratic Party in those rooms, and we're missing it. So we have to keep fighting. We can't just say we're the Democratic Party in name for a photo op. We have to be actionable. We have to do the action, we have to do the work. And in order to do that, we have to have a playbook. I'm Elena Sanders, vying for your next chair, and this is a time for change. We can't keep doing the same thing over and over, expecting results. That is insanity. And until we get those things done and we change at the game, it's not going to happen. Again, I am Elena Sanders.
South Georgia, thank you for coming out tonight. Carl, consistent, accountable, and reliable. But I'm gonna take that tire off and take reliable and put relatable on. Because rather than giving you all the points we done talked about, I'm gonna tell you a story. And I got a minute and 30 seconds to go. In that story, in 2015, there was a young man in Savannah, Georgia, who was tired of all the issues going on in his community. And instead of telling people he was tired, he stepped up to run. He ran against a 20-year incumbent who sat in that seat for 20 years between that seat, the county seat, and the Board of Education seat. And he took that incumbent out because you know what he did? He was consistent, accountable, and relatable. What he did was he knocked on 5,000 doors. He talked to 5,000 people. He did what the current Republican did not ever do. And he won by 200 votes. I'm not talking from a theory, I'm talking from experience. To do the work is how we win Georgia. And you have to have a chair who is willing to do the work. Not theorize about all kinds of things, but somebody who's willing to get out there and talk to people and work with people and get the people back to the polls. Consistent, accountable, relatable, and reliable. I will drive that car everywhere we need to go to make sure we deliver the excellence that the Democratic Party deserves. My name is James Jones. You got the flyer. I'm Googleable. You can find me. I promise you. Find out about not just me, but all the candidates up here. Because if we're not willing to take the time to learn who's running for you, we might make the wrong mistake on May the 3rd. Thank y'all for being out here. And once again, thanks for the 12th District and the 1st District and the 8th District for showing up here tonight. God bless.
I'm Hardy Davis, and I'm asking for your support on May the 3rd. Lifelong Democrat, I've served and won and governed and delivered at the state representative level, at the state senate level, and most recently as a 2-term mayor of Georgia's second largest city, the city of Augusta, Georgia, home of James Brown, the Godfather soul, and the cybersecurity capital of the nation. Why am I running to be your next chair? Because I've done the work. There's a track record that demonstrates that. Not only this, but we've got to build permanent year-round infrastructure. I know how to do that. That's how I got reelected consistently. We need to also rebrand the Democratic Party. We've lost sight of the fact that we too can be people who value good jobs, safe homes and communities, good health care, and equal opportunity for all of our children to make sure that they have a leg up instead of a leg down. We then need to focus on making sure that we're raising money that matches our mission, a mission that requires us to elect Democrats from the bottom of the ticket to the top of the ticket, and then, after we've done that, to make sure that we're identifying, recruiting, training, and running candidates for school board, for sheriff, city council, county commission, judicial races, district attorneys, because that's how we turn Georgia blue. That's how we move this state forward, and we do it by also then running legislative seats to make sure that we flip the Senate from where it is now to 29, and taking the House of Representatives from where it is to 80 to 91 House members. That's how we turn Georgia around. We can talk about winning the governor's mansion, but if you don't have a legislature to support the efforts of what the governor wants to get done, then that's North Carolina. We can't be North Carolina. We've got to be the best Georgia because the stakes are high, the time is now, we're more than a battleground, we're the firewall to democracy. We're gonna get John Ossoff reelected, but we're gonna start with getting 2 PSC members elected, and then we're gonna continue this good work all the way through November, from municipal races to legislative races to statewide races. I'm Hardy Davis, asking for your support.
Now more than ever, we have to fight back. The rules of decorum have changed. Donald Trump and his Republican cronies are ripping up our democracy, and we need messaging that packs a punch. We need an operation to match. I have been a fundraiser and I've raised over $50 million for Democrats up and down the ballot, and I will use those talents to raise tens of millions of dollars for our state party. I'm an organizer, and I've organized tens of thousands of voters with broad coalitions, and I've won. I'm also a strong messenger, and I have the receipts to prove it. We need a chair that understands our lived experiences and is reflective of our diverse experiences as well. And I promise you, when I'm your chair, I will fight for you and I will fight with you, and we will build an organization that will flip this state blue and hold Republicans accountable. I'm State Senator Nabila Islam Parks, and I would be honored to earn your vote. Thank you.
Y'all, let's give a hand to these candidates. As you know, we have a state committee meeting on Saturday in Atlanta. If you're a state committee member, we hope to see you there. The chair's race is one of several items of business on the agenda there. Thank y'all very much for joining us tonight on behalf of the Democratic Party of Georgia. We appreciate your time. I want to also say a special thank you to Kathy Frederickson, the Bullitt County Dems, Chair Krishna Badidi, the 12th Congressional District, the Senior Caucus, the Disability Council, Young Democrats of Georgia, and the Bullitt YDs for helping co-host tonight. If you are a member of the Democratic Party of Georgia staff, if you will please stand, please, so we can show our appreciation for all you've done to help pull these candidate forums together. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. A reminder to each of you that we have a big event in Atlanta on May 20th. Please go to georgiademocrat.org/DPG election to find out more information about our Unity fundraiser. We hope you will join us there. You all have a great night and be safe.